I've been here in Northwest Arkansas now for a week, full week, and it's interesting how there's a different standard of professionalism here than there was in Montana. And to provide a context for this, an example, I was trying to get my resume right and get my LinkedIn profile up to date and stuff like that, and realizing I didn't really think too much about it, and I had to, spend some time working on that. And then I've realized a lot that people are, in many cases, quite qualified. It's a place where a lot of talented people have come. So it's not the kind of environment where just showing up necessarily makes a huge difference. It's a place where it can be quite competitive because there's a lot of people who are very qualified in the marketplace. And then I look back at Montana and 5 years spent there. There's a lot of things which even more senior people just didn't really spend time thinking about, like LinkedIn or having a professional resume. These are things that just didn't really come up in conversations. They were things where even the senior leaders in my company who were there didn't really seem like they would think about necessarily having a LinkedIn profile or something. But then you come out here and you realize it's something everyone just expects. Of course, you have to have a well-made LinkedIn profile, and if you don't, that's like, I guess, showing up naked or something. It's just a no-brainer. Of course, you would have to be active on that platform. But in Montana, people didn't think too much about it. There was just a lot more of a sense that people moved at their own pace there, and there were a lot of things that might be expectations somewhere else, but they weren't really expectations there. People had a tendency to kind of roll in late and take their time and have their own interpretation of the rules, and it was far enough off the beaten path that there wasn't a lot of formality in many cases. Whereas here, there's a lot more of a sense of a corporate way of living, if you will. And that's something that I'll have to get used to, because it's not as simple as saying, if you're literate, then you stand out from the rest. It's a thing where you have to prove in some way that you have something to offer, and that can be difficult. It can be hard to break through the metaphorical glass door, I guess, and be able to find something that will be a good fit. And so I'm still applying for jobs and hoping that it'll all work out the way it should. And yet I don't really have that assurance. That leads me to the thought that it's important to do something. And there's a certain value added in having a good attitude, investing in your personal likability, being the kind of person who can have a smile on your face, be positive, and do something. Not necessarily a lot. There's a lot of times these days where I just don't necessarily know what to do, right? Like, I can apply for a job. I can try to think about what sort of things I would talk about in an interview, and in hopes that I'm going to be able to be competitive in my interview. But some of this stuff is not super clear. Like, I can't manufacture a skill set that I don't have. I can't snap my fingers and be able to speak to things that I don't actually know anything about. I can't create a history that doesn't exist. So I have to fall back on just doing the best I know how to do, trying to ask people for recommendations, trying to follow up and strike a balance between being respectful and also being persistent. I can try to contemplate how maybe I could do better But ultimately, there's a lot of cases where I just don't necessarily have a clear answer of what exactly I need to do. So I just try to be patient and also try to do something. But I've thought about how the value of doing something, even if it's not a lot, even if it's not something where you can brag about it and say, look at all of the stuff I've done, it's still, you can say, I've done something. You know, I got up today, I apply for another 5 jobs. Well, it's not 100, it's 5. And I update a few things on a resume, or I, do a little bit of networking to try to reach out to a few people. It's not necessarily a lot, but it's something. And even if it's done wrong, it's still better than doing nothing. And I think there's a tendency we have to write ourselves off and then to do nothing, because we think to ourselves, well, I don't know how to do well, so how can I compete with somebody who's way more qualified than me? So I guess I just won't try because I would fail. Well, yeah, you probably will. You probably will fail. You'll probably be rejected 50 times. But there's also that chance. If you have a 1 in 100 chance, then you're better off if you try 100 times than if you try once and then give up. Even if you aren't good at something, like you aren't strong at interviewing, or you don't have a really strong profile or a really robust resume or a lot of qualifications, well, you have a better chance statistically to land a job if you apply for a job than if you don't apply for it. You have a better chance if you interview than if you don't interview. And so it's better for us just to try to do something small, and then reward yourself by acknowledging that. And celebrate your small steps in a consistent direction, even if they don't necessarily feel like enormous steps that are delivering an overwhelmingly positive result. And then the other thing is, just be careful about people who seem like they want to help, but they don't actually want to help. They want to rain on your parade. They're people who will just hover way off in the distance, and it's hit and miss whether they're going to really bother to follow through in any particular way. But they will still want to kind of know what's going on. Hey, how's it going? Hey, well, I'm glad you want to know how it's going, but you're not really doing me any favors. You're not going to be showing any care or concern. You're not really going to be giving me helpful guidance. You're going to just kind of want to check in and say, hey, what's going on? Because you're curious. Be careful about curious people, because curious people who don't really have any intention to do anything good in your life other than just be curious and hang around, those people are not going to help you. And I've made another video about similar topic dedicated to that. But I think it's very important that we focus on celebrating our own personal path in an environment which doesn't allow other people who aren't going to be positive to have a voice in our personal forum. Like, you can be hard enough on yourself without needing other people's 2 cents there to help you be even harder on yourself. But the power of doing something versus doing nothing is really pronounced and important to remember, because when you feel like nothing you do is necessarily going to guarantee the right outcome, it's easy to start to feel like maybe you shouldn't bother doing anything. And yet, small steps do make a difference. The journey of 1,000 miles begins. with a single step. And the world is definitely divided into a lot of people who try and often fail, and then a lot of people who don't try at all and fail by default. So you're better off to show courage and experience rejection than you are to not bother trying, because it just seems like, well, I only had one talent, so I guess I might as well just bury it. Don't be that person. But also believe in providence, because the truth is, many times we will try very hard, we'll try many times, we will try in different ways to accomplish the result that we're trying to get. And then things will fall into place. And we will look back and realize that it was the hand of providence that guided us, not our own agenda, not our own winning strategy, not our own designs, which led us to the place where we need to be. So just believe that the universe is a friendly place. Believe that all things will work together for good. Believe that even if you don't necessarily have a really firm plan of exactly what you're going to do, even if it feels like you're stabbing in the darkness, well, sometimes providence has a path prepared for you, and all you need to do is show faith. All you need to do is be willing to walk away from the places where blessings can't find you. And if you find yourself in a place of freedom but emptiness, a place where you don't have what blessings you feel you'd like or need, but you're also in a position where you're ready and willing to receive them, then sometimes if you just have a positive attitude and believe the best, then the best will all happen in due season at the right time anyway. And sometimes the plans we have are not the plans that Providence or God, or however you choose to describe it, have for us. Sometimes we think we know what we want, but what we want is actually not exactly what we need. And then we look back and we realize, well, you tried many times to get something that was not exactly what you were supposed to be having. And when the time comes, then our prayers are answered, but they aren't necessarily answered with the medium that we thought they would be. As Morgan Freeman, playing God in Evan Almighty, said famously, you pray for the family to be closer together. Does God give you warm, fuzzy feelings? Or does he give you adversity so that you can practice loving one another? And that's how it is. Sometimes it's not that when we venture out of our comfort zone and we take a leap of faith, it's not that we suddenly get exactly what we want. But when we venture out, that can be a first step toward opening ourselves to receiving what we need. As always, best of luck on your adventure, and remember to always have faith that all things work together for good. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.